Good morning. Welcome to Grateful Mindset Properties Realty Radio Show, Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Here we are again, WKHP.com, 107.7 FM. I hope you'll listen live every week to me and my guests. And sometimes it's me as a guest when I get some no-shows because, life happens, right? We've had some power outages recently over the last week here in Hendersonville, somewhere, obviously across Western North Carolina. But I am coming to you live, and I love that you listen to me every week, and I really appreciate all the folks out there, my dedicated folks that have been with me over the past 5 years or so as I've been doing radio and bringing to you Realty Radio, first on WTZQ and now on WHKP.com. So today I have a special guest, and I hope you'll stick around. I have Diane Dean, and she is from the Hendersonville Art League. She's the president of the Art League here in Hendersonville. Hopefully you've been by to see the gallery, or you've been by to see the recent show. And they are at 2025 Asheville Highway, I believe. But she'll correct me if I'm wrong in a few moments when I have her on. But I do hope that you'll stick around and listen. But before we get to Diane, my lovely guest, which I do talk about, you've heard me talk about Diane, you heard me talk about the Art League because I love it. My daughter and I, we've taught there, and we love to take classes there. So the gallery has been fabulous. There's just been, every month there's some new things to see. But like I said, she will be updating you as well as me in a few moments after I talk about local real estate, local and national real estate. So first let's talk about interest rates. I talk about them each week. I know my dedicated listeners love to hear the update. So right now, we're at the 30-year fix. We're at 7.5%. So we actually have gone higher on the interest rates than we were in 2019. And it is predicted that we're probably going to go up at least another quarter. We're at 6.8% in the with the 15-year. Obviously, there are ways that you can bridge that gap. You can do bridge loans. You can buy down the rate. You can buy points. Obviously, if your credit score is 800 or 790 or above, your debt to income is low. That will affect your interest rates. I've got folks that are in the fives right now. So that does vary, but for the general public, it's 7.5% for the 30-year fixed and 6.8% for the 15-year. As I talk about each week, we do have a low inventory market. It is predicted for the next 2 to 5 years. We will remain in that low inventory market. Builders are still playing catch up. There still is just not enough inventory across the United States, especially here in Western North Carolina. My husband is a local builder. He does residential, luxury, and green certified properties. He remodels and builds, and I am the project manager for Greenway Construction, as well as the broker in charge for Grateful Mindset Properties, which is what's bringing you this lovely radio show, where we combine art, science, and human interest. So right now we've got about 8 properties that are coming soon here in the Hendersonville through Western North Carolina area. We only have 25 new listings. We have several price increases and a few price decreases and some back on the market. I'd like to talk a little bit about why we see price increases. As I mentioned a moment ago, we are in a low inventory market. Western North Carolina is known for its, lovely mountains, its creeks, its lakes, places to do things outdoors year round. We have a lot of folks that move from California, Hawaii right now we're dealing with, I'm sorry to hear, I feel bad for the folks in Hawaii that are dealing with the fires. I know California dealt with that. They deal with it a lot. But in the West Coast, that is something they deal with. And we do get a lot of folks that move here from the West, as well as from New York, New Jersey. We get a lot of what are called halfbacks that move from Florida and live here half the year, pay 6 months to live here and 6 months to live in Florida or elsewhere. That way they only have to pay, in terms of it not being a second home, they only have to pay property taxes as if they were living a full year if you split it 6 and 6. So the reason we have these price increases is because of that low inventory, because it is such a lovely place to live and people are buying their first time homes, they're buying their second or third because our taxes are low. Again, you can do things outdoors. I mean, folks that are moving here are like, oh my God, your taxes are so low. Obviously, folks that live here and have lived there their whole lives are like, oh my God, there's so many people moving here and taxes are high. And I will be having some folks on. I actually have 2 guests from the local community from the Henderson County talking about taxes and the tax rate and how that all works. And why the taxes did go up, based on the fact that they have not gone up in the last 4 years. And if you were to talk to people about why taxes go up, taxes, generally go up, obviously, because 17% of the income or the income across the United States depends on real estate. And so we need taxes to go up to cover roads, to, covering the widening of roads, adding streets and sidewalks and paved roads and, paying for our school systems and things that people want to take advantage of that live in the area. So when you see those signs about roads being added or widening of roads so people can bike and hike and walk their dogs, etc., in their neighborhoods, taxes pay for that. So we do need those taxes to go up. And because they haven't gone up in 4 years, or the last 4 years when they did go up, they didn't go up very much. They generally increase about 1%, 1% of your property's price point. If you look at the taxes and you look at the real estate market and you look at the average or the range of value, especially here in Western North Carolina, about a year ago, the fixer-upper was around $200 to $250. This year, a fixer-upper a home to be remodeled that is not move-in ready starts in the 300s. So if you are looking to buy a property that needs work, you expect to pay somewhere in that $300 to $350. When you get to that $380 to $450, a lot of times you will find, a 1,200 to 18 square foot home that is move-in ready. It may need some slight changes. What we call move-in ready means it's got floors, ceilings, walls, and you can move in and maybe you want to change the counters or you don't like a sink, etc. So that's what we mean by move-in ready. It may be, you don't like what somebody painted or what they chose for their fixtures. So that is something important to note. I have had some sellers who, all my properties are under contract or are closing this month. I'm so grateful for my buyers and sellers. I've got some folks coming in this week from out of town. I've got folks from Virginia, from North Carolina, South Carolina that I've been showing properties to. And I had some sellers call me last week and say, hey, I really want to list my property, but I really want to wait and see what happens with interest rates and so on. And like I said, they are going to go up 0.25%, but there are a lot of cash buyers out there. So I really encourage you sellers, because the average home price is in that $400 price range here in the Western North Carolina, across the United States, to really consider listing your property. If you want to list your property, please give me a call, text me, 828-290-0940. You can also check out GratefulMindsetProperties.com. You may see my billboards around town on Four Seasons, on Route 26, on Shepherd's Road. I've got a few billboards around town as well. I'm obviously on the radio as well. And I'm a former researcher. I do research as a real estate agent, but as many of you know, I was a clinician for 30 plus years, had a private practice. I still do volunteer around town at the Art League as well as other places. But if you have any questions or like to see folks on the radio, or not see them, hear folks on the radio, besides Diane Dean, who hopefully you've been listening as I've been talking and waiting with bated breath to hear what she has to share. So please stick around. But if you want to see some other folks, hear some other folks on the radio with me, listen to my podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. I am on different real estate sites, as well as GratefulMindsetProperties.com. You can, if you miss our show Saturday mornings on WHKP.com, you can also go to our podcast and hear our show after the fact, after Saturday mornings, after 9 to 9:30 a.m. It will be something you can just go on WHKP or Grateful Mindset Properties or Spotify, Apple, and so on. You'll be able to listen to us on the radio or on podcast. So I'm going to bring on Diane Dean, president of the Hendersonville Art League, and she's going to talk about all the wonderful things that are happening at the Art League, and I'll have questions for her as well. So Diane, please tell me what's going on with the Art League right now.
Well, thank you, Judy, so much for having me on today. And
you're welcome.
It's interesting to listen to Judy talk about the growth in our area, because that growth is really reflected at the Art League in terms of how we we've grown over the past 3 years. In fact, a lot of the growth even started during the pandemic when people were leaving some of the more stressed locations around the country. And the organization has just dramatically grown to meet the demand. In fact, we find that a lot of people are evaluating whether to move to a community like Hendersonville. And part of that evaluation includes, is there a strong arts and cultural environment? And part of what we do is provide the visual art piece of that arts and culture for the community.
And Diane, why do you think art is so important?
I'm in the middle, actually, of defining a whole program to talk with our patrons and sponsors about the value of art in a community. And a community really can benefit, for one thing, as I mentioned, the art and cultural environment is part of what people evaluate. So if you have a strong art environment, your community will thrive, it will grow, it's good for business. Art creates a sense of pride in the community. Young minds benefit from participating in art programs, from seeing art, from watching artists at work. So art is really an integral part of the human experience. And here in Hendersonville, we have the beautiful outdoors. We have a fabulous art community.
And so when you're doing, so you said you were evaluating that. Do you have any sort of numbers you can share right now? I know maybe you don't have the hard numbers yet, but just sort of a guesstimate on that.
Well, we just finished an opening for an exhibit that's still available for the entire month of August. It's our Celebrate Art juried art exhibit, and it actually is a regional show. So we have a collection of artists. We sort of think of them as the best of the best who are exhibiting their work. We have over 110 pieces of artwork that is three-dimensional and two-dimensional, quite a variety of techniques and mediums. In the opening weekend, 400 people attended the gallery.
Wow, that's
a
fantastic
huge number.
And I saw the signage is finally up. Will you remind me the address? I think I may not have the address correct. What is the address?
We actually have two buildings.
Thank you.
One of them is the Art Place Studios, and we house 23 working studios there. That building is at 2015 Asheville Highway, and the other building is at 2021 Asheville Highway, but they're actually right next door to each other, so you can walk between the two buildings.
Yep, and it's right there across from the ugly mug on Asheville Highway. They've got great signage. I mean, there's classes, there's the gallery. And, you know, listening to you talk, I've mentioned that, you know, that my daughter and I teach there. We take classes there, and I love it. You know, as a former clinician, behavioral health, I can tell you, and I know I've talked about this before, I love repeating it, but how we differ as a mammalian species is how we use art and how we file away information. And that's what makes us different than all the other mammals out there. And that's important to understand because from the emotional epicenter, so from our part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex that activates, you know, sort of the stimulation and how we communicate, you know, our thoughts, our feelings, our sensations. Art is a really big and impactful piece of that, whether you're seeing it, whether you're doing it. So being able to access both sides of the brain, you know, one using science and facts and math and so on. And, you know, that's the organizational part. But the emotional part, that's where art comes in. And so that piece, when you're able to do art and, you know, organize it and plan it and do it, you're really stimulating both sides of the brain, which actually regulates our system and brings balance. And when we're regulated and we reach homeostasis, we feel happy, we feel healthy.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. I also feel that we have so many new people in the community and they're searching for a connection. And because we just entered into having facilities within the last 12 months, in fact, the studios have only been open since April, so it's very new to us. And we did a lot of remodeling. It was all done by our members. So it gave people something to join together and feel a part of. Before we had any buildings, we really were just kind of a virtual organization without a home. And it was a great opportunity for so many of our new residents to become involved in something, feel a part of community. Many of our members are not working artists. Many of them are art appreciators, art patrons, and they just love being around art, being with artists. We have monthly events where they can come and socialize in addition to all of our workshops.
What would you say? So you're the president of the Art League, and then you're also involved with Art Mob, right? Is that correct?
I'm a working artist.
Okay, tell me more about that.
Yeah, I have had a studio at Art Mob for 10 years. Okay. And I did a lot of traveling, and I did a lot of art festivals in other cities. I'm like many Hendersonville residents. I came here part-time, and I had a home in Hilton Head, South Carolina, and we went to Florida for 4 or 5 months. So we weren't even halfbacks. We were like triple backs.
I love it.
And we're here full-time. We've been here full-time for 5 years. So we made the same decisions so many of our residents did. This is a fabulous place. The weather is great, and the art is wonderful. The music is wonderful. It's just the perfect environment. We're finally out of our rainy period, and we're into some nice weather again. So, but I do paint. I do very large acrylic paintings. Anyone who's ever been in Art Mob, I'm the second studio, and I'm on the left, and a lot of my work is big red poppies and sunflowers, and people will see me other places and see my name and say, "Are you the one that does the sunflowers?" So that's me. I wear a lot of hats. Oh, I know you do. And it's funny because I remember I've taken classes with Diane, and she's fabulous, by the way. So if you really want to learn and you really want to understand and feel like you're, part of the community and connected, any classes you take at the Art League are great. And then obviously visiting the gallery and buying and appreciating art, patronizing is a big piece as well. But now I just lost my train of thought. But palette knives and cityscapes, there's so many sort of different things I didn't even know about until I started volunteering and attending the Art League, and now I'm sort of enmeshed in it, and it's fabulous. We have a lot of artists that work in different mediums, use different tools, and you can see that represented in the variety of work that's in the Celebrate Art Show. We also have another event that's coming up in October, our Open Studio Tour. Last year, we had 63 artists who opened their studios to the public. We hope to have even more this year. The call for artist is still going on, so anyone interested in being one of the demonstrating artists in their studios wherever they might be. So they don't have to be here in Hendersonville. They could be in Asheville. They do have to be in Henderson County. Oh, they have to be in Henderson County. Okay. Just from a logistics standpoint, it's a lot of traveling. Sure. But every community around the area does have these open studio tours, so it's a great chance to go in, see an artist at work, see how they organize their studio. Last year, we had 1,200 people attend the 3-day event, and it will take place. It's October 20th, 21st, and 22nd this year, so Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And if people want to find out more about the Art League and about these events coming up in October, where's the best place for them to find that information? Our website usually has everything you would need. It's artleaguehvl.org. So artleaguehvl for Hendersonville.org. Okay, artleaguehvl.org. Right. Okay, great. And the Open Studio Tour, we actually will be publishing a booklet, which is a guidebook, where you'll be able to look at the images of all of the artists and sort of plan your route. So it's a fairly complicated thing. It takes you a couple of days to drive around, but you can see a preview of some of the artist work in a gallery exhibit, pick up the book, and plan where you want to go. And where they come into the Art League to pick up the book? They'll be picking up the books at the Art League, one of the two buildings, the 2015 or the 2021. They'll be available sometime in October. Yeah. Okay. And then I'm guessing you'll probably send out like a newsletter. Oh, yes. And you'll remind me so that I'll also mention it on the radio as well. Sure. And so, so you said there's 23 studios, is that right? There's 23 working artist studios. Okay. In the building. Mm-hmm. Is there room for more? We actually are doing our renewals, and we do have 2 studio spaces that will be available. One of them, I think, is about a 10 by 10, and the other one is about a 10 by 15. They're pretty decent size. When we have a wait list, but people are welcome to join the wait list. And some of the artists on the wait list are waiting for a specific size or location. Mm-hmm. So, but if anyone is interested, they can reach out to us. Our contact information is on our website. They can stop in at the 2015 building and see what the studios are all about and see whether or not that's the kind of environment they might want to work in.
And what are some of the, will you talk about some of the artists that you have? Because there's so many of different mediums, and it's really interesting to just as me, sort of this novice, learning about the Art League as I did this year. I can't believe all the different ways, that you can do art. So maybe talk about that.
Just at the studios alone, we have a fiber artist who does a variety of upscaled or upcycled, not upscaled, but upcycled clothing that are also embellished with handwork. We have mixed media artists. We have a glass artist. We have an artist who paints on printed fabric. It's really an interesting process. She does mostly figures. And the figurative work is sort of woven in and out of these floral printed fabrics. It's very unusual. We have watercolors. We have oil painters. We have artists who work in cold wax. We have an artist who works in digital art. She actually creates original works on her iPad using digital paintbrushes and picking her colors and doing her design. It's much like a traditional artist, but she's using computer tools. Totally different from AI, which is a whole other subject. We don't have any studio artists who are actually just generating with AI, and that's a subject that a lot of artists are talking about these days. But in the organization as a whole, we have every possibility. In fact, this year for our Celebrate Art exhibit, we wanted to do awards. And when we started talking about categories, there's too many categories. We would have had to have given out about 100 awards. So we had to sort of put people into groups of they work on paper, they work on canvas, they work in three-dimensional, that's freestanding. Because when you take into consideration scratchboard, pen and ink, watercolor, oil, wax, there's so many mediums and so many approaches to artwork. Turning wood, slumping glass, stained glass. We just said, wait, we have to develop some categories. The focus a little bit.
Right. Yeah. So, wow. And how many judges did you have for the jury?
We have one judge.
One judge? Okay.
Yes, and the awards are hung, so the ribbons are hanging by the work. The judge this year was Lucy Clark of the Lucy Clark Gallery and Studio in Brevard.
Okay.
So she's a great curator of her own studio and gallery, and we felt that she'd make an excellent judge. And we have some really interesting works that are the prize winners, so something fun to see.
And people can see that online, if I remember correctly,
yes,
right? So they can see
the winners are identified. The whole exhibit is there. It's never like seeing it in person.
I know.
We were even shocked when we'd all gotten to see the digital images before the event. And when you walk in and you see the scale of some of these pieces, it's a whole different experience.
Obviously, yes. Seeing it in all its dimensions, literally and figuratively. Yeah, no, that makes total sense to me. Any of the artists that are featured, because I know like you also change the gallery every month, is that right?
We change the gallery every month. This month, as I mentioned, is the Celebrate Artist artwork.
Okay.
Next month, in the main gallery, which is the 2021 building, it's a member exhibit. So
that's what I was
any
gonna ask
member
about.
who wants to exhibit can exhibit. Any member can just bring in one piece or a collection of smaller pieces. That changes every month with an opening, typically the first Saturday. We're going to try some Friday evening openings.
Oh, great.
We feel like there are a lot of our members work and would prefer to do something in the evening and have their Saturdays free to be with their family. So we're kind of mixing that up. And then there's also a gallery in the studios building. And so 2 studio artists will be featured with a bigger collection of their work in that gallery.
Okay.
Then when we have special events like the October Open Studio Tour, each studio tour artist will exhibit a piece. So it's kind of a mix-up based on whether or not we have any special events. We have our Fabulous Fakes event that happens every year that everyone loves, where our artists create a fun version or a very different medium approach to a version of a masterwork, a Picasso or a Renoir. And that's a lot of fun. And we do feature that in the gallery. And the Artscape Banner program, the banners that hang on Main Street, that's one of our programs as well. And all of the original pieces that are selected for the banners are exhibited in the gallery each year. So
I hope to sponsor one of those Artscape banners.
Fabulous. Yeah, that's part of our sponsor program I'm working on right now as we speak, and I'm going back to my office to do that this afternoon.
So going back to community, because I know you mentioned community earlier, I think that's a lovely subject and a great way to look at the Art League because, being a member, it's like membership has its privileges, right? And one of the privileges is that, one, you can, feature any artwork that you make in class or at home. And that you also can teach a class if you're a member, right?
You can. And we have a wide variety of classes, and there's demand for classes for beginner levels, for advanced levels. We have figure drawing salons with models. So we're always looking for innovative ideas and new things to teach. We have one of our artists is going to he's going to do an Art for Lunch event. Okay. This is kind of a way for an artist to present what they might teach and have people sort of learn about it.
Okay, so like a lunch and learn.
It's a lunch and learn, and he is a very talented oil painter. His name is Ed Morris, and he's going to teach on the prismatic color palette. And I don't exactly know what that's all about, but it sounds fascinating. And he has studied with a number of very well-known artists who practice this prismatic painting palette technique. So I'm looking forward to that, and we're working on that for this fall. But every month we have an Art for Lunch with a different type of speaker. Sometimes we'll talk about how to apply for an art festival. Sometimes we'll talk about how to prepare your work for hanging for people that have not been through the whole framing and matting process. We may talk about how to write your artist statement. We may have demonstrations by artists in a particular medium. So every month it's something different.
And it's really wonderful. So again, community, actually doing, like, I know a lot of people, I'll learn it on YouTube. No, I can tell you from experience, actually going, taking a class, seeing the gallery, seeing, showing, telling, and doing are all part of that community piece with the Art League. You can't learn that from a YouTube class, or you can try, but I really believe that really going in and really experiencing it, and being a part of the community, and, members volunteer. It's also a nonprofit.
It is a nonprofit. That's
really important to hear and to understand that, that you can also donate. There's different things that you can do and be involved in many different ways. Is there anything that you'd like to say, or, really want to highlight or just touch base on again, or anything you want to share with the community that's listening right now?
I just really invite everyone to stop in, spend some time, talk to the artist. The galleries are both open Wednesday through Saturday from 11 to 4. We're hoping to expand that a bit more. And when we have special events, we'll be open on different days. But everyone is welcome. Everyone is welcome to join. We do invite guests to even come to our Art for Lunch events. Check us out, see what's happening. The public is invited to our monthly openings, and we typically have wine and snacks at those openings. So we have a database of people who are interested in receiving our newsletters who can sign up for that online. And we have a social media presence and Instagram and Facebook postings about what's happening. There's usually events listed in our local magazines like Bold Life and Asheville Made. Good. We get a lot of attention. We have a lot of stories written about us. So it's just an exciting time for the Art League.
And again, website and addresses one more time.
It is artleaguehvl.org, and the galleries are at 2021 and 2015 Asheville Highway, which is also where the studios are located.
Thank you so much, Diane, for being on the show with me today. I really appreciate you and all that you do and all the Art League has to offer. She is a wonderful president. She's always very busy, and I know sometimes she can't always do her art because she's so busy with, managing things as the president. So you can really see her dedication and her love of who she is, what she does, and what she brings to the community. You've been listening to Judy Moulton here, realtor, broker in charge at Grateful Mindset Properties. That's gratefulmindsetproperties.com. And Grateful Mindset Realty Radio Show host at WKHP.com. You can find us online at gratefulmindsetproperties.com. See keep saying hear podcasts. You have to hear a podcast, right? Check them out at WHKP. Check them out at Grateful Mindset Properties. Listen to us live, 9 a.m., WHKP.com. WHKP is at 107.7 FM. Thank you so much, listeners. Really appreciate you.